So what I decided to talk about tonight, and as always, I welcome people who want to have stuff that they want to talk about, but I already have a class for next week, so don't even try next week. I came up with a title. I said I'm doing it whether or not I have a class. There's something to talk about. So everyone, keep your eyes on your inbox for the invitation to the next talk dinner, because it's going to be an awesome title. Clickbait. No, that's what it's going to do. Everyone's going to click on it, read the story, come hear what they have to say about that. But what I decided to talk about today, I think is something very important. Next week, not so important, more exciting, more sexy, if you will. But what I want to talk about today is something very important. And it's important because I think that maybe, for a few reasons, I think maybe if we had to isolate the crowning achievement of Jewish philosophy over the past, 3,000-4,000 years, like what is this idea that we are trying to impart to the world, this one thing we're trying to communicate? I would say maybe, and I'm sure there could be other ideas, but maybe the most important thing that we've tried to share with the world is the idea that men, when I say men, I mean men and women, are not be shackled to the negative character that they were born with. We all have flaws. If you're human, and all of y'all seem to be human, right? We can very safely surmise that you guys have flaws. How do I know that? Because everyone has flaws. How do everyone have flaws? Because the Torah says that everyone has flaws. Why does the Torah say that everyone has flaws? Because the Torah says that your job here is to fix your flaws, to perfect yourself, to improve in your character. And the one thing we're trying to get into other people's heads is the idea is that whatever character you have, whatever flaws you have, it's not cemented in stone. Right? You're able to change it. Not only you're able to change it, but the Torah demands that we change it. And during Mincha today, I was jotting down a few verses. Off the top of my head, I came up with 5 or 6 verses, just verses in the Torah and statements from our literature that demand of us to change. We have 8 times in the Torah. Not 5 times, 8 times that we should be like God. Walk in the ways of God. And the Talmud tells us, what does that mean? Just like God is merciful, just like God's kind, you should be kind. Right? Maybe the most famous verse in all the Bible, you should love your neighbor as yourself. What do you mean? I hate my neighbor. I can't stand him. He doesn't take care of his lawn. Right? I don't like him. Right? You have to learn to like him. You have to learn to change. You have to learn to try to find the good in other people. It's demanded upon us, and we're able to do it.
What else if you try to help someone, they're in a horrible situation, you try to help someone, and they're just not...
You can change someone else. That's also important. But you could, and you have to change yourself. I gave a few other examples. You have to be generous. You have to learn how to... In Kesef Tavet, if you have to lend money, you have to be holy. What do you think about what kind of demanding requirement that is? You have to be holy. And a few other ones here that I gathered from the Talmud off the top of my head. Someone who gets angry, it's as if he commits idolatry. And idolatry in Jewish philosophy is like the worst thing you can do. You're rejecting God. So you can't be angry. Can't be angry. I have to be willing to forego the wrong that was done to me. So much is demanded of us in the way of perfecting our character. So not only can we do it, we have to do it. And I'll even argue that even in our lives, irrespective of what the Torah commands us, if we want to be successful in any area, we're going to have to learn to change. Children and young adults and young persons, they need to learn certain skills. They need to maybe learn to overcome certain inadequacies in order to be successful in the professional life. Wouldn't everyone agree? Who wants to work for 9 hours and listen to some boss tell him what to do? What do you mean? What does he know?
He knows more than you.
Well, maybe he does, but you might have to, or maybe he doesn't. But either way, you have to listen to him because he's your boss, right? And this is very. I think people want to be independent. People don't like being beholden to someone else's whim, and you have to learn to lower yourself down, subjugate yourself a little bit. Your professional life. I think.
I totally agree.
You totally agree?
I see this now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm in the real world,
What do you see?
it.
What do you see?
What you just described.
That what? That you have to learn.
People want to be like independent and they don't want to like follow their rules.
But to you it was always natural, huh? You
always follow the boss. Right? He's the boss.
And then,
I don't know, maybe I'm just rule oriented, I don't know.
And then one of my friends, no one here knows them, so my friend Jake, or Yaniv, his Hebrew name is, and he's in our building in Fondren, in our office building. So he tells me, he says, when I was working, whatever, I decided my number one goal is I should never again have a boss. So he's doing startups, he's doing his own businesses. He doesn't. You know what he does? What business he does? You know, when you go to a website, some shady website, you see on the side of some talking person, like these web spokesmen. He does web spokesman. So if you find model2web.com, give him a nice shout out. If you want his net website is model2web. And he has like a bunch of models that come into his office and they just read like 30 or 40 different, clips, scripts that were given to him by people across the globe. And he sends it to them. He charges them $300 and he pays these people $50 an hour. We're able to churn out 50 of them. So, yeah, so he's, such a cute little business he's making lots of money off. But what he said is this: I don't want to work for someone else. He wasn't willing to negotiate on that. And so easy to go for him. I think that in relationships, everyone would agree. If you're going to have, if it's going to work out, you're going to have to learn to compromise. You're going to have to learn to not be obstinate. You're going to have to learn to care for someone else. You're going to have to be a little bit less selfish. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. So your professional life, right? Learning how to control your habits, your eating, working, sleeping habits. Who has a hard time waking up in the morning, right on time with vigor, to exercise and actually, be serious about your health and about your professional life and your personal life. Everyone needs to learn how to deal with the conflict of their inborn characteristics that they need to overcome them. So this is crucial. Learning how to change yourself, change your character, overcome, right, is important for us in every facet of our lives. Personal, professional, social. This is crucial. And lastly, I also think that the longer someone puts off dealing with, Jess, why don't you get some food?
I'm good. I'm so full.
Oh, yeah?
What? I went to go meet a friend at 6. I didn't know it was going to last until like 20 minutes ago. No, I mean, you're full. I never heard you say that. That's perfect for you. I mean, she likes food.
Don't we all, huh?
I guess I think most people have seen that firsthand. Unfortunately, you don't find metabolism. Yes. Is it amazing? Who knows how long it'll last anyway? Very well knows. Sorry.
Interesting. Yeah, back to the topic.
Yeah, so the last thing I was saying is that it's kind of crucial to kind of nip it in the bud. Like we're all pretty much at the beginning of our lives, till you're like 20 or 25, you're just trying to get your act together and trying to learn how to just be able to deal with other people and to be a productive member of society. We have another 70, 80 years to live. And the longer you live with a certain character-mality, the harder it is to change. Old people have a really, really hard time, right, being nimble and pivoting in their character. They can't do it. Why? Because the longer you live with a certain way of operating, the more cemented it becomes into your character, the harder it is to change. That's why, ironically, I have I have opined in the past that with regards to getting married, right? I'm just wondering what's going on over there. With regards to getting married, there's a certain benefit of getting married younger rather than older. I did marry when I was 20, so I'm probably a little biased here. But the point is that anytime, that's so funny? Anytime you're going to get married, you're going to spend lots of time with someone else and try to have a productive relationship, not just 2 bedrooms, 2 remotes, 2 bank accounts, 2 cars, 2 lives, but really to integrate your lives, this is be very painful. You have to acclimate and you have to give up a little bit of your own character. And the more cemented you are in your ways, the harder it is to change. Sometimes you meet these people that they're very finicky about the way things are in their house, right? They're just not flexible about certain things. The longer you are living, harboring within yourself a certain character flaw, the more inflexible you are with that. Therefore, the harder it is to change. So think about it as if we're constantly regressing. Unless we're doing something to change something, it's getting worse and getting even harder to change. So I think this should add a sense of urgency to us. I was thinking myself, as an example, I'm sure some people may share this and some people might not have it. You don't have some of the idea of obedience and listening to authority. Some of the not one of your problems, but it's one of my problems. So this is not something you don't need to work on, but everyone has their own collection and assortment of characteristics, good and bad, and everyone has their own mixture. But one of the things I think that I need to work on is to be a little bit more, to have a little more initiative, to be a little more aggressive. I think in business, the people that have the gumption, the people that do things that get themselves out there are the ones that are successful. That's a characteristic that you can find by all the people that actually accomplish a lot are people that are willing to get out of their comfort zone and do something great and trying to change the world and be bold and audacious and aggressive. Obviously, they could come with other negative qualities, but that's a good quality. And it could be in your business, it could be in your life, it could be in your character to take initiative. So, like I said, everyone has their own things, but the longer you are living with yourself and whatever characteristic it is that you're not working on, the more it's getting integrated, ingrained into your life, into your character, and the harder it is to remove it. What does everyone say here? Everyone agrees? Yeah? Any insights? Any thoughts? Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
You could.
Well, you can. It's just harder. It's just it's a little harder. It's a little harder.
Mine seems to.
Oh, your dog? Yeah, it's also. But I also think that people.
That was over her house. I didn't see her
Literally.
I just got it.
Mind you,
I think there's also an idea there's a certain characteristic. There's millions of different characteristics that we have, maybe thousands, but one of them is a characteristic that someone is willing to change and to reinvent themselves. So that could also be something that we could try. Sometimes people are just stoic. They're stagnant. They're not progressing. They're not developing themselves. And there's a certain midas, we call it in Hebrew, a certain characteristic where someone is always growing, always self-analyzing, being self-critical, and therefore trying to reinvent themselves constantly. And that would obviously make it easier for someone to change themselves even at a later date. So that's kind of actually, that could be like a gateway characteristic. A gateway characteristic could be a characteristic that helps you perfect other characteristics as well. Okay, so what we have right now is responsibility, not more from the Torah, but also from our lives in business, personal, professional, social relationships. We have an imperative to change, right? To learn to take our negative character and try to change it. What I want to talk about today is the two pitfalls that every single person who is ever taking on this initiative of changing themselves is going to have to face and going to have to navigate by. And my grandfather gave this wonderful little example when he talked about this. He said you have a ship that's going through a passage, then on either side of the passage there's a cliff. Either side. And there's winds, and it's the water is very rocky. You got to make sure you don't go to one side or the other. You want to get to the other side, but you got to make sure not to fall down into the side of the cliff. So when we navigate through this process of changing ourselves, we have to be very aware, very cognizant of these two things that could undo any initiative of self-perfection, of character refinement. That's what I want to talk about today. What does everyone say? Everyone likes the idea? Okay. What are these two things? Number one, rebellion. Number two, haughtiness. What does that mean? What does rebellion mean? And this is, think of it, I'd like to think of it as like, when someone goes on a diet. And I know this happened with me. So, and like you're saying, okay, I'm going off sugar for a week or a month. Someone does something which on paper really seems like a great idea. Like we had in our neighborhood, we had a Biggest Loser contest. I didn't win. I wanted to win, but I lost. But I was there, okay, but I'm losing 20 pounds over the next 2 months. I'm going to go on this 4-hour body diet or 4 day, something like that. And for 3 days, I was eating like omelets and chicken with like no, right?
That's great.
And then it's so painful, and your body's rebelling. Your body's rebelling. Your body's your body's fighting back. And you have such an internal turmoil and conflict. And what happens? The bubble bursts, and you start drowning yourself in Oreos and potato chips. And anyone who's ever tried to actually do something really, really big all at once, right? It's very painful. It's a challenge, an internal challenge. And then there comes a point in time, your body is just fighting back. Boom, and it gets even way worse. There's this backlash effect. Sometimes was compared to a spring. It's like you push the spring too hard, it's going to backlash, and it'll be even worse than what it was earlier. So if anything someone wants to change, like we give an example, someone wants to be energetic in the morning. So they say, okay, I'm going to put up my alarm clock for 4:44. I learned with some guy. Is that one of my kids? Jim Cramer. What time does Jim Cramer wake up?
I don't know.
You know what Jim Cramer is?
Manic.
Huh? What time does he wake up?
I don't know, he's crazy.
Give a guess.
4:44?
No.
I wouldn't believe he doesn't go to this, considering he admitted at Penn State University that half of what he says is a lie.
What? Because he says it so fast. There's no way. There's no like self-criticizing, or there's no filter there. He wakes up at 2:47 a.m. 2:47. Is that crazy? I don't know. He probably sleeps for 3 hours. Look at him. The guy's like just on. He's just on. What's it called? It's adrenaline. He's just on adrenaline.
How is he doing that?
I don't know. He doesn't. But Google it. What time does he wake up? I have a friend. You probably know who he is. Harvey Rosenstock. He's a big psychiatrist in town, and he's on the torch board. And he tells me he wakes up every day at 4:44, which is a nice round number. 4:44, and he goes to sleep like at 1 in the morning. But he's a little more elderly, so he doesn't need as much sleep or whatever. Well, the point is that someone wants to wake up early, so they say, you know what, I'm going to set my alarm clock for 4:44 or 5:15, right? When they're used to waking up at 8 or 8:30, right? If they try to push themselves too hard, it will be so much of a struggle, is that not only will they not accomplish anything, they'll start sleeping maybe even later than what they're sleeping now. And now they won't accomplish, they won't be successful. It'll be even worse. And we give an example of dieting, but I think any example that you think of,
Or
if you try,
so stress out about making sure you wake up, you don't get much sleep, and you're exhausted all day.
yeah, then you're miserable about it. And we need to change, but it doesn't need to be painful. And if it's painful, there's this tremendous danger of having this backlash. And we have in the Talmud a very interesting conversation between Judah the Prince, Rabbi Judah the Prince, the codifier organizer of the Mishnah, and the Roman emperor of that time, which in the Talmud they call him Antoninus. And most scholars say that this Antoninus is Marcus Aurelius, who became the Roman emperor the year 161 of the Common Era. You did a book report? Marcus Aurelius?
Yeah, but I know, I didn't do book report, but...
I actually Googled him today, and it says like his Greek name is Antoninus. It's probably the same guy. And they had boys. Sorry, apologize.
Party.
They sound like they're having so much fun.
It does.
Yeah.
Still on cocky duty though. I haven't said it once.
Oh yeah, well they're playing nicely.
Really slipping.
Okay, well
I think that was it.
it's really loud. I guess
Well, it's just the acoustic.
it's just the acoustics. It's like the narrow hallway.
Well,
Anyhow,
not.
so there's these fascinating conversations that the Talmud records that happen between Rebbe, or otherwise known as Rebbe Yehuda Hanasi, or Judah the Prince, and the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. And what is there? Someone else over there?
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So it says that they have this they have a few conversations. It's okay there. So they have an argument about the neshama, the soul. And Antoninus asked Rebbe, the emperor, the Roman, asked Rebbe, when does someone get a soul? And Rebbe says to him, when the child is born, the child gets a soul. He says, no. If the child has to have a soul, it's the time of conception. Why? Because otherwise, no physical entity can have vibrancy, can have life. That is a spiritual entity. And then he says, I agree with you. So Rebbe, right, the Jewish leader at the time, Judah the Prince, he agreed with Antoninus, with the Roman emperor. And then the next story, it says that when does someone, Antoninus asked Rebbe, when does someone get a yetzer hara, which is a evil inclination? So Rebbe said to him, from the time of conception, and we just talked about that. Like you get the good at the time of conception, so you assume they get the time of conception, all the bad as well. He says, no. If so, then if the child in utero had a yetzer hara, an evil inclination, whatever that means, separate discussion, then they would kick out and they would push out to try to be born, and they would just all die. Like all babies would just be stillborns. That's what it says. And then that's the conversation. It's in Sanhedrin 90 or 91 B. You can find a few. That's the conversation. Then Rebbe says, I agree with you, and I have a proof from the verse. He brings a verse, etc. So it's very interesting that we find here a definition of what the Yetzer Ra, of what this power that we have within ourselves, what it does. And then think about it. The child in utero would commit suicide? Seems awfully strange. Why would a child in utero kick out if he had this power called the Yetzer Ra? Why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive, right? It's he's probably going to die. Well, yeah, but it's not a conscious thing. Children have characteristics even before they're cognizant of it. It's inborn.
Like a miscarriage, is that what they're talking about?
Well, what it seems to say is that if a child had this element called the Yetzer Ra within themselves in utero, then the child would boet be'imo, which means he would kick his mother, v'yotze, and leave. That's what it says, which seems to indicate that he would propel himself out of the utero, endangering himself and the mom probably. That's what it says. But what I wanted to glean from this is that maybe when we have this backlash, when we have this tendency to reject, to rebel against change, maybe this is inherent in the Yetzer Ra that we all have. The Yetzer Ra is something that's within ourselves that does not like to be constricted, doesn't like to be in a situation where they're not exactly 100% comfortable. So therefore, because they're not 100% comfortable, if they're in utero, maybe it's claustrophobic, maybe it's constrictive, they want out. Even if it's something which is detrimental to them. If I don't want the doctor telling me how to eat, right? I'll specifically eat like they have the heart attack grill in Arizona, right? There's a huge burger joint. Google it. Called the Heart Attack Grill. That's what it's called. And it's people there who are like spitefully unhealthy. Like there's people there that just have had heart attacks while munching these massive, juicy, horrible burgers.
They probably have that here too, right?
Well, there's this one made the news. I don't know, but it's called Heart Attack Grill. Okay. It's horrible. Why would someone go to eat there?
Mama girl bandit, don't worry.
Oh, is that right?
It's not long for this world.
Yeah, really? I don't think it could be banned. That's a joke, but I guess we could tax them. If they're not bad, let's just call it a tax. Point is that humans have the capacity and the tendency to do something which is even bad for themselves because they don't want to be told what to how to. Don't tell me how to eat. Right? Don't tell me to do what's good for me. Right? I'll do specifically what's not good for me. And this is something that we might actually have because that's what the Almighty implanted within us in the form of the Yetzer Hara. Right? This tendency or this desire to not be told what to do, to not have instructions, and to not follow instructions. So therefore, when someone pushes too hard in the effort to change, they're likely going to find themselves in a situation where they'll face backlash. So that's the first danger we have to face. And the other danger, and this is interesting, I've experienced this myself. I know that, back to the aforementioned diet. So, when someone's very conscious about their health, they suddenly start noticing other people who aren't conscious, and they start looking down at them. And it's kind of like
No, they're trying to help them. Why don't you make a better choice?
It's like the second, or maybe but
It's all in how you make the suggestion. Sometimes it is someone looking down, but
like if you're really healthy, and you see someone who's just like by the candy aisle with a massive cart and just like unloading the shelves, you kind of look down at them. And that's an automatic tendency. I know that I tell you, I personally experienced it. I know that there was a few we have
Halloween,
Or, yeah,
You go out.
That's judging favorably. That is judging favorably. But every step that I make in being more careful, more conscious about one thing, I'll start noticing other people. Or the second I do that, I'll start noticing other people that don't have that. And that's a danger because the second my character improvement initiative yields haughtiness, yields the feeling of superiority over others, then everything I gained is outweighed by what I lost. Because when we look at haughtiness as the Hebrew word ga'ava, which means like pride, but feeling superior to other people, that is the root of all negative character. So what I'm essentially doing is I might be getting rid of one thing, but I'm taking on board something which is much, much worse and much more egregious and much more likely to trip up in other areas of my life. So it's like I had we have over here, we have a minyan, Shachris, the early minyan. So there's two minyans in our shul here. Number one is at 6 o'clock. Right? 6 o'clock. And then there's the 7 o'clock minyan. And we have about 220 members. And if you actually go and count how many people show up to both these minyans, I don't know if you get 220. You really don't. And you kind of wonder, will they all daven? Well, they probably daven, hopefully they daven, but they maybe daven in their house, in their car, at work, later on in the afternoon. I don't know.
Do you think that Jews are high propensity for judging like that?
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Why didn't Shlomo come to shul today?
That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Well,
No, Jews do it very frequently.
what? We're critical. Yeah.
Well, yesterday I
Judgmental. Yeah, that's a negative character.
This, like, you know how they had like Avon parties? It was just like this some beauty cream that they had a party. My friend invited me along.
Yeah.
And she was talking. She met this lady at Starbucks when she was grading papers, who just seemed like in a horrible spot. So she invited her along and had to pick her up. And the brunch that was held, the little party, was everyone who was delightful and sweet and like very successful in where they're at. And this lady, she just rude to everyone, and then claiming that she's a great Christian, she goes to church, and being nasty to everyone. And so after the lady leaves, we're just like, I had to calm down on the lady who was was the host, because this is a brilliant lady who owns like a multi-million-dollar company practice, and is very successful, and is very welcoming, has helped out a lot of people, and has been helped out a lot of people. Like, she's very giving, and people are very giving to her because she is that type of personality. And she was just like, the lady was kind of in her face, like, oh, I'm a good Christian, and then kind of walked off, and I had to calm her down. And then after we're like, yeah, but my friend was trying to help her, but we were all being judgmental from like hearing about her situation and how she could have presented her. It was just
do you think that maybe her reaction might have been that she realized just like that she was in a situation where she couldn't match you guys on anything else? There was something that she had to kind of.
Yeah, we're trying to talk about that. Yeah, we're trying to.
Well, she needs to like assert herself because
If
save face.
If everyone else is successful and she's not successful, how is she going to get on?
She has to save face
And so I'm very
by pulling other people down or something like that, so that you level the playing field.
Like, yeah, it's like kind of like I'm trying to bring that up, but it's just like
Terrible.
it was just I brought it. Like after she left, we were all like, okay, this is now the party. But like they were trying to sell, and she was just trying to like discredit the product, and like, well, it's still this is the scientific fact behind this in the studies, blah blah blah, and she kept on bringing down when you have doctors in the room. We're like, no, this product works, and so it was just, and then we were all critical of it afterwards, but we're just like, you know what? She's probably just jealous of the situation. She didn't know how to react.
Yeah, but that's a terrible thing where people are judgmental. But I'm it's something that could also be born out of someone doing something good. Yeah. And I know I personally have experienced it. Like if you decide that you're not going to speak negatively about other people, which is a very noble thing, right? And then you hear someone speaking negatively about someone else, you automatically say, gosh, this person is despicable. Even though 3 minutes ago, before you had this change of heart or change of practice, you were the same thing.
Because if you know that person, you're like, that's obviously false.
But like I was we're trying to sympathize a little bit, but the way that
See, Dana, what you don't understand is that you have such wonderful character. You don't like.
No, because I see that at work. People are like, oh, she's. I'm like, no. She like.
No, but that's a wonderful characteristic,
like,
Dana. That you judge people favorably.
yeah.
You judge people favorably. Benefit of the doubt. That's a wonderful character. That's a wonderful media. And I wish I had that same thing as well.
Well,
I really do.
I mean, when I was trying to think from a Jewish standpoint, someone making a large change, I think of the Nazir.
Okay.
And I know the Nazir had to bring the sin sacrifice of sorcerer. Did that tie went to that or not? Because I never heard of it tied to that. But I don't know.
Yeah. So what the Gemara says that a Nazir is someone who makes a vow of to be like distinct. So he decides to not drink wine, to be like holy, but not drinking wine, to not be involved in frivolity, or not come close contact with dead people, to not shave. No, a Kohen, no. Yeah, anyone could be a Nazir. Anyone. There's a whole book in the Talmud called Nazir. And the Talmud says that when this person finishes his vow, he has to bring a sin offering. But the Gemara says, Al shetzir atzmo min hayayin, because he pained himself by abstaining from wine. So it might mean that as well, that the second someone climbs onto Mount Pious and declares himself mayor, he's essentially looking down on other people. I know that this is something that I for sure have experienced myself. I know that I made a decision, whatever that may be, like back to the aforementioned example of trying to come on time to Shacharis and trying to go to the early minyan. And I see people like, oh, where were you? I didn't see you about the davening. What happened? We could come. Oh, and even if I don't say that, I think that. And that's really bad, because what I'm essentially doing is I'm working on myself and growing in a certain area, and I'm regressing in a much worse area to be bad in, and that it doesn't make it. The negative impact is far worse than what you actually positively accomplish. So these are the two things you want to have to navigate. Anytime you want to change, right, you have to change. There's an imperative to change. There's going to be two stumbling blocks, two potential pitfalls, two cliffs on either side that you have to very carefully navigate, because otherwise, if you don't do it properly, you're going to fall, and you're not only not going to accomplish, it's going to either get worse, you'll have the backlash, or you might be successful in that one area, but something else will pop up. It's like the law of unintended consequences, right? You work so hard at doing one thing and getting rid of all those pesky cats from the neighborhood, before you know it, you have tons of mice, right? And it's way, way, way worse. Not everyone hates cats, but cats that hang around the garbage and make your life miserable. I know you have cats, right? But like in Jerusalem, almost everyone hates cats. In Jerusalem, almost everyone hates cats. When I live, because the cats are like just in the garbage, undomesticated cats are. But you get rid of that, and you think you're successful, and before you know it, the unintended consequences of something much worse happens. So I wanted to just quickly suggest maybe an angle that we could take if we truly want to change ourselves in any area, is to do really, really small steps. Really, really, really small steps. How small? So small that it doesn't even feel painful. It's kind of seamless. Like, okay, I want to wake up earlier. Yeah, that's small. That's small, because the second it's hard for me, I'm going to have the backlash. The second it's hard for me, I might look down at other people. You want to integrate something, have a very long-term vision. You can't really change something that's inborn overnight. You can't do it. What you need to do is have a very long-term outlook and say, okay, over the next 12 months, I'm going to learn how to eat healthy. And just seamlessly integrate that into your life, and just slowly either cut down on what you're eating, or if you're eating too much, or you're eating unhealthy, or slowly add, I'm going to have one vegetable a day, or something like that, or one bite of one vegetable a day, something like that, where you, over really, 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 really long time, in a very seamless fashion, very painless fashion, right? You look back and see how much you accomplished.
And then you can check it off your goals.
Right. And like I know this might sound platitudinal, and yes, that's a word. That's a word. What?
Platitudinal.
What?
That's a word.
Not platitudinal?
Yeah,
like a platitude.
Yeah, it's a word. Platitudinal.
Oh, you're supposed to say platitudinal? I've been saying platitudinal for years. And I actually only recently learned what platitude is, but I'm looking down at everyone else doesn't know what that means. See that? I just learned the word. I say, well, how do you not know?
We use it like twice a day.
Yeah, I know.
Where do you learn this word?
Where, I don't know.
Essentially.
Like essentially? The word essentially?
Like where you use really nice vocabulary. How do you integrate? I want to do that.
Okay, so if you learn one word every 2 days, well, you'll have, at the end of the year, 180 new words.
But how did you get, like, platitude? Like, how did you...
I don't know, but did Josh learn platitude in preschool, so don't look at me.
Wow.
Or Dina, get those calendars that have the word a day, and so every day.
I want to get snacks.
Read like the classes.
Like I just told my kid, on the way, like you guys were already all here, but one of my kids, my Yoshushush, so he asked me a question. I said it's inconsequential, and he just accepts that because that's just a word he doesn't know. But if I talk to them, I don't say, oh, it's not so important. Well, if you expose your kids,
no, that's wrong. I mean, yeah.
Right. Well, that's. So the core idea I'm trying to sell is really something which is platitudinal.
Like that
And
word.
it's something that everyone really knows, and I could start a sentence right now, a platitude, and everyone's about to finish it, right? A journey of 1,000 miles. Well, there you go. It's a platitude. Right? Small step for man. Right?
That's a platitude.
That's not a platitude. I guess that's really not. I was just thinking about small steps.
We'll see about the moon, right?
Huh? Yeah, well, no one's ever there. No one's ever there. Okay. Huh? So the idea I'm trying to sell is that if you really want to do something and not fall over the cliffs, either cliff on either side, it's got to be really small steps and slow, seamless integration of small acts, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, slowly, gradually, slow and steady. Slow and steady. Thank you. Wins the race. I like all these things are platitudes, but it's really true. That's really how change happens. Change in character. I'm not saying you say, "Oh, well, wait a minute." You could change, change in your own character. That's all I'm talking about. Not change in the world and how things happen.
Like you were saying earlier, dating habits, like you can
Exactly.
have a big junkie instead of restricting yourself completely away from them. Just slowly bringing down them
Over time, exactly.
Rather, I'm wondering, and I may be making a completely false connection here as always. When the Jews went to capture the land of Israel, God said specifically that He wasn't going to let us do it all at once, or else there'd have all the wild animals be coming inside of it. So it's going to be slowly but surely capturing the area, and it was supposed to be then with avoiding the problem. Is that?
Yeah, well,
Is that time for
that's a good point because you'll ask the question, wait a minute. The Talmud says that the Jews, when they left Egypt, were indistinguishable from the Egyptians in their character. Indistinguishable. Right? Halalu of the avodah zarah, halalu of the zarah. These are idol worshippers, these are idol worshippers. They're the same thing. And then, a couple of weeks later, they're at Mount Sinai having a national prophecy. How did they get catapulted? Rabbi, you just said that anytime you want to accomplish something, small steps, right? You jump two runs in the lottery, you might go tumbling down. How is it possible that the Jews, when they left Egypt, were suddenly, like just overnight, on a dime, right, were raised to such great heights? And how is that consistent with what I'm trying to sell? And that's a good point. We always look at the 40 years in the wilderness as being something l'malam min hateva, right? Supernatural. That is indeed supernatural. When they got to Israel, they were demoted to just natural. So it's interesting you point out that once you're already in Israel, you're crossing over the Jordan, right? You have Joshua, no more Moses. Right? You've been degraded to just regular individuals. You got to do it slowly as well. Anything you want to accomplish, you got to be slow. And you think about even modern day Israel. Right? How long was it from when the idea was popularized? And the idea has been around for a long time. In the year 1825, some guy proposed to have the Grand Island near Niagara Falls to be the Jewish state. So it's not just Herzl's idea, which is not a bad place, I guess. It's nice scenic views close to Canada. But how long did it take for the Jews to get their state? And how many different things had to fall into place? And how much work goes into building something great? My graphic gives us another example. He says that you look at it at a person, we see an individual, we just see one thing, right? But then you take the microscope and you see that every person is composed of millions, nay, billions of tiny little cells. That you have to take a magnifying glass, a microscope that magnifies something 100,000 times to even see it. And you are just an amalgamation of billions of these tiny little things. Right? Similarly, your character is going to be created by millions of small little acts of that character. All these little subatomic acts of kindness will create me into a person not create me, or create this act of kindness, this character of kindness, and will cement it within my character. That's what I have. I just, this is our life. Our life. We're here to change ourselves. That's our purpose. If I have to put the human's mission statement into just one sentence or less is to take whatever tools that they have, and this is social, circumstantial, and obviously the Torah and intellectual abilities that they have, and create themselves and the people around them better. So the Torah is, the Jewish destiny is, the Tikkun Olam means, all those things are the same thing. We got to change ourselves. Beware, be cognizant of these two dangers. And we presented one way to navigate that perilous journey safely and be successful in our life's mission and what we need to accomplish. And thank you all. I love you all, as usual. And next week is going to be an awesome topic. I want to send out invites already now.
The topic is also in the title.
The title, the topic hasn't yet been. There's no class. It's just a topic.